Eryn, hi. Thanks for coming on the Need2Know Comedy Show. So, did you grew up in Singapore? Did you?
Yeah, born and raised. And then I left at 18 for uni, basically.
Okay, and you did some theatre in Singapore when you were there at school, did you?
Just the normal school stuff. So I went to an international school. There were like quite a few plays going on, so I was in those kind of things. Oh, I did. I was in a film when I was 17.
Oh
uh,
yeah, a
yeah,
feature.
yeah, Singapore made film, and we went to Cambodia for, I think I was like 3 months or something.
Oh, okay, cool. That must have been interesting. And I read somewhere that you did a perfume ad in Singapore. Is that right?
Oh, that was just like Tish stuff. That wasn't real.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, did you come to the UK then to actually study comedy?
Yeah, I went to Southampton Solent where they had, I don't think it exists anymore, but it was like a comedy writing and performance course.
Oh,
Yeah.
that was it. How long did you do that for?
That's 3 years. It's like a normal BA
Oh,
course. My mum found it in a newspaper and then I just applied and went to it.
why? Because that's something that you were interested in doing.
Yeah, so I was like quite interested in acting. So then I went and like auditioned for a few, but I only got so far with them because they're like quite brutal and ruthless and don't really let, they kind of like, I think they wait for people to be a bit older to let them in, or all of this kind of stuff. So it's like was a really brutal process. And then I realized as well, like I didn't really like the look of any of these places.
Mm.
It was all a bit like, seemed a bit pretentious. They all had a bit weird vibes going on. So then I just applied for this comedy course, and it was a much better suit.
Right. Yeah. So, what do you do on the course? Yeah, I know you do writing. You do improv as well.
Um, it, what did we do on it? It was not much really. I guess it was kind of like looking back a bit of the history of comedy. We also did stand up and like what jokes are, writing jokes. I mean, it wasn't the best course that exists. So it's kind of difficult to look back and be like, what exactly did I do? Oh, we like learned using cameras, and like we wrote a sketch show at the end and then filmed a sketch show. So that was good. That was like actual good practical
Right. And
learn.
do comedians come to this college and teach you or give you advice, or like who teaches this?
Old men who had their heyday back in the 70s and won't let go. Um, there are people who have been like involved in comedy. So I think one of our lecturers wrote on Birds of a Feather, and then that's like he was just really insistent in telling us that he wrote on Birds of a Feather like every lesson. And that's all I know about his background.
Yeah, oh, I can imagine.
It was that kind of thing going on, but it was good being like kind of the first time being in a group full of people who were all interested in the same thing.
Yeah. That must be cool.
And obviously I grew up in Singapore. We didn't really have like, the comedy scene wasn't really thriving when I was there. It's kind of like a bit behind with those kind of things.
All right, yeah. There isn't a comedy, like, is there a local comedy scene in Singapore?
Yes, but it's really taking off now, I think.
Right.
Like they have like fringe festivals and all sorts going on. It's just as like part of like the Asian comedy scene.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
And so, did you do go for a year to New York as part of that course?
No, it wasn't. That was a separate thing.
Oh,
Again, my mum found it. Just keep doing things that my mum found.
your mum sounds amazing. That's
Yeah, I know. How supportive is that? Like, she just keeps finding things, so then I just keep going to do. Uh, but no, that was a different thing. That was basically just like, that was a course, but more of like a chance to kind of be in New York, and that had improv and stand up and like sketch writing, the whole shebang.
right. Yeah, and so like,
Degree and more of like a
sorry?
practical. It was like less of like getting a degree, so like no essays and like dissertations and stuff like that. It was more like practical learning.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
good. I've seen a couple of clips of you doing the Gotham comedy.
Oh wow, that's ages ago. Yeah,
Yeah, it's a really good though. It's really good
like
stuff.
5 years ago. Yeah.
Like, is that
Yeah.
when you were? Is that when you were starting out? How long had you been doing stand up when you did that?
Well, I guess I did a bit of stand up like at uni, but I feel like when I moved to New York, that's when I really started to actually find like, oh, I like doing jokes like this. Like this is my vibe. Whereas before I was doing like all sorts of stuff to try and find out who I was, kind of thing.
Right. So you found your voice. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
It's
love that.
not polished at that point, but it's like
Ah,
getting like, you know, when you just like, okay, this is comfortable. I'm comfortable in this now.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I love that bit where you ask a man in the audience what's his name. His name is Mark, and you just drag that out for so long.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
Oh my gosh, I did that. So I really liked that bit, and I've like kind of dropped it because I did that at, do you know these um blackout shows where you kind of get gonged off, like you get.
Oh yeah. Okay. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So I went and did one of these, and I opened with that bit. No, and people just, I guess, thought I really couldn't say this guy's name, and I just got gonged off immediately. It was really horrible. It was a really horrible experience. Um, so I was like terrified to do that bit again, but maybe I should bring it back because it was fun.
Oh no, it's so funny. So funny. I presume like the easier the name is, the funnier
Yeah,
it is.
yeah, really just like zone in on like a white guy that looks like he has a very simple one syllable name.
Yeah, yeah, that's really good. Yeah. Oh, those gong shows are ridiculous. I mean, how can
Yeah.
you develop an act when you just
I've
uh,
done two now. That first one, which I did ages ago, and then somebody was like, "Oh, you'd be so good at the Comedy Store," because I do like one-liners and short jokes. And then I was also off immediately at that one. They booed me on my way to the stage. I didn't
right?
even stage, and they're already booing.
That's outrageous. Although that's kind of a good thing in a way to say that you actually got booed before you.
Yeah, it wasn't the material. It was just the look. They just didn't look. They weren't into the look.
Oh, I'd say that's a badge of honor.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, all right, and then so what do you think? Have you much experience of the comedy scene in New York, or like would you know if it's a very different scene than in the UK?
It is pretty different. Yeah, I mean, I basically have only really done like the London scene, and then I mean, New York is like a lot smaller. Everything's easy. You can do like a few mics in a night. Um, and it seems that it's a lot closer knit, whereas like London is so big. It takes so long to get anywhere. But also there's like pros and cons. I mean, in New York you sometimes you have to pay for like pay to play, like give them $5 to get on stage, which is like ridiculous.
Yeah,
Or
I,
yeah.
And you have to bring people with you at some shows?
Yes. If you want, like, there's like showcases where you have to bring like 20 people to get on stage as well, and they all have to buy drinks. It's like, I mean, it's so American. Like, it's like, get your cash out and then you can kind of go. But then here it's like, I don't know, I feel like in London the struggle is so real because you just are constantly going to mics, and there's like, they're kind of like, sometimes in pubs and basements you don't always get a really big audience. It's kind of just as like, it's a bit more of a trudge, I think.
Yeah, and I think, like you were saying, in New York, there probably is more camaraderie because you don't have so far to travel, so you can actually hang around a bit after you've done your bit.
Yeah, I felt a bit more like people would come up to me afterwards and be like, hey, what's your name? Let's go to a few. Whereas here it's just like, I just want to go home. Like, it's going to take me 50 minutes to get home. I just want to get home.
Right, okay. And so had you, you discovered your voice in New York then, you would say?
I feel like that was the start of it. Yeah, like kind of the start. I don't know, it's kind of been like on and off for me. I never was really like in a scene enough to kind of like be part of it, if that makes sense. And I feel like with comedy, that's actually like a lot of the game, is kind of being part of something and like having knowing people and people kind of recommending you and all of this stuff. But I was never really around anywhere long enough to do that.
Oh, yeah. Perhaps.
Maybe 2 years ago in London, I think, is when I feel like that's when I started. I was like, kind of know who I am, kind of part of the scene.
Yeah.
Let's go from here.
And do you feel like you are an exaggerated version of yourself on stage, or how would you be different, or is it just you?
I don't really know. I guess it is me. But it's kind of like, I don't know, I kind of like finding what the energy is and kind of like twisting it a little bit so that people are just not totally sure what's happening. My gigs are usually quite chaotic.
Yeah, I love the stuff. I love the pointing gag.
Thank you. That is my favorite joke.
So good, and you can just drag it out. I guess it depends on the gig, but
yeah, exactly. It is. It's one of those things of like dragging things out if people kind of get what's happening. But sometimes people fully don't get what's happening.
really, God, so annoying. And I see that you've done a lot online. Like, is that just purely since the lockdown, or have you always been online?
No, so I started this character, Eryn Tett, a while ago. I started that in New York as well. And then have been making videos with that character for a while now. So like 6 years of that. But then more recently, I've started trying to do a few more kind of sketches or different formats, because lockdown happened and I didn't have an income or a job, and I didn't have comedy anymore. So I was like, I need to do stuff. If I like leave myself for long enough to really sink into that existential nightmare, I'm not coming out of it. So I need distractions. So I just tried to make as much as I could.
Yeah, like one of my favorites is the lady who bought up loads of Furbies.
Yeah, I had a lot of people asking me if I was okay after that one.
That's so funny. And the other one, the floppy disks.
You did, yeah. I had that floppy disk idea that I wanted to do. I wanted to like do a joke like on stage, but I couldn't think of how to do it. So then I was like, oh, an opportunity to like film something.
Yeah, I love those. I really love those both. And you edit the stuff yourself?
Yeah, so that's something I learned at university. That was something I learned how to use Final Cut back then. So I've always been able to edit my own stuff, and that's been really useful.
Yeah, the editing is great on those. You just get the timing is really well, in my opinion, the timing is amazing on those.
Yeah, I really like doing. I feel like editing stuff is like most of the power when it comes to filming sketches and stuff. That you can kind of write it and like act it out, but I feel like it's the editing is where it kind of, because that's the rhythm, that's the pace, that's the
I'd agree. Like the editing on a sketch or on a film or a comedy is similar to your timing on comedy.
Yeah, definitely.
And I don't think you could leave it in the hands of just someone else to edit your work.
Yeah, I get a bit controlling with those things. I was like, I'll write it, I'll be in it, and then I'll edit it. How does that work?
Yeah, it's brilliant though. And I'll also love the one where you review Britney Spears' Instagram.
That was my attempt at a more YouTube-y type video. Which was trying to like get people to go to my YouTube. It didn't work, but actually, weirdly, after that, Britney Spears started trending as a hashtag.
Oh,
Nothing,
really?
More to do with people trying to free Britney.
All right, because she seems to have lost her way a little bit.
Yeah, some conspiracy that I'm not fully up to date on, but I will get back to you on it.
Okay. Were you a fan of Britney when you were younger?
I'm not so much a fan of Britney. It just is I think it's like a weird generational thing. I feel like loads of people my age would just like defend Britney, but we have no idea why. It just was like subliminally part of our childhoods, and now it's like if anybody says something bad about Britney, I'm like, no, she's a legend. But I have no idea where that comes from.
I actually love Toxic. It's my favorite.
I love that she made a song called Email My Heart. I just think that's so funny.
I didn't know that actually. So
you did. It's so good.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So would you like to do like sketch comedy? I think you'd be brilliant at it. So
yeah, I would like to do sketch comedy. I'd love to. I mean, if there was like a version of SNL that was here, I'd love to do that kind of stuff. I know I find it so difficult. It's like all about infiltrating these groups and communities. That's like the hardest bit. Yeah. It's like with stand-up, you can just show up and get up on stage. But this is a lot more of like a finding where it's all at kind of thing.
Right, yeah. Are there not like kind of competitions or like?
Yeah, so I entered a couple things into competitions over lockdown as well. So I wrote there's like these funny women competitions. My sitcom got longlisted and one of my videos got shortlisted. So
yeah, that's really
trying to like show people that I'm kind of doing these things and make connections that way.
Well, you've loads of really good content on your YouTube channel. I'd recommend anybody to have a look at it. It's really good. Yeah. But have you ever tried doing a character live?
No.
Would you like? Is that something you'd be interested in, or?
Maybe. I think it's going back to that like editing power I have with characters that you don't quite get on stage. That I know with my Eryn Tett one, like a lot of the rhythm of it comes from the editing.
Yeah.
But I would, I would like to do more of that stuff now, I think. Now that I've kind of like used this lockdown to kind of dip my toe into those things.
Yeah.
I would like to do a bit more.
I mean, it's tougher with a character on stage. I've done characters live, and it can be tough because I think what's hard about it is if you're in character and things aren't going well, you can't really break out of that character.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
Like, it's all time, don't hate me.
yeah. So that is difficult. Probably better. I mean, maybe there's a different scene where you can do characters, like maybe cabaret.
Yeah. I mean, there is definitely like space for it, and some open mics that have more of like an alternative kind of edge to them, which are ones that I prefer anyway. Because going on the like mainstream stand-up types are always a bit more tricky for me, I think.
Right, yeah. Is there a scene now where it's less about stand-up and it's a mixture of maybe stand-up, I don't know, drag and burlesque or something like that? Is there a scene where that happens?
I think there definitely are a few nights that kind of dedicate themselves to that kind of thing. I know that like Objectively Funny kind of has a bit more alternative stuff. I've done one that was like, more of like a cabaret night. There was like a drag king and like sketch and all this kind of stuff. That was, some Charlie George put that one on. So these things, definitely exist. But again, it's like, it's trying to find them and like attract that kind of crowd.
Yeah. Because I mean, if you hear about the original alternative comedy scene that started in the 90s, I guess, it wasn't purely stand-up. In fact, there was lots of really odd acts going on.
Yeah.
And that seems to have gone away. I mean, I've heard of acts. There was one guy apparently who would melt a block of ice. That was his act. In different ways, every night.
I guess that's what like the fringe festivals are good for, because you just book a venue and then you do what you want with it. So those kind of things I guess are good for finding those people.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And have you done the Edinburgh Fringe?
I did it once a while ago as a split. I was bringing my first solo show to the Edinburgh Fringe this year. That's not happening. I guess that gets postponed. Yeah. So this was like my big, I'm finally going to do the Edinburgh Fringe.
And you had the whole show written and everything. Had you done previews?
No, my first preview was like the weekend of the week everything was locked down.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's tough, Eryn.
Really frustrating, but that's okay.
All right, yeah. Jesus, that's tough, yeah. So how does your mother feel now about how things are going?
Yeah. She gets constant updates. Yeah. She watches all my videos. She comments on all my videos.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think basically my whole family are teachers. Like my parents are teachers, both my sisters and my sister's husband. So like I'm a family of teachers, and then I've completely gone wayward and picked a different path. So they don't really get it. I think sometimes they're like, you could maybe do a real job sometime. But supportive nonetheless.
And how do you feel about it? Like, do you think it's a tough choice to have made, or like emotionally can be like, it's shit when you die on stage and
Yeah. Yeah, I do know it's still haunts me. So like I've clearly not gotten over it the way I was talking about that, like getting gonged off.
Oh no, I don't mean. I mean, no, you made a joke of that, but I don't know.
Yeah.
It can be tough. When I look back on starting out, I go, "How did I do that?"
Yeah, yeah. I think it is. It's weird, like emotionally, and also it's like weird physically as well, because your adrenaline is constantly like doing this,
Up and
and
down, yeah.
thing is hard, and like it must really just mess with your body as well as your mind. I don't know. I was trying to think this. I was thinking this last night because I also do like modeling and acting stuff, and then along with comedy, and you just get rejected so much across all of, like, I've just picked all these paths where I'm like maximum rejection in all of these places. I don't know, I just must be like seeking it out. I don't know. And then as soon as you get something, you're like immediately hit with kind of like a weird like imposter syndrome, like, oh, I shouldn't really be here. So it just, the whole thing, I don't know what I'm doing to myself. Don't know why I do it.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it's really odd that people who appear to be quite sensitive maybe choose a job that involves so much rejection.
Yeah. Yeah, just feels comfortable somehow. Yeah. And then the success feels strange. You feel like you feel like, oh, I deserve it because I've been working so hard, but at the same time you're like, oh, I'm not used to this feeling, because you get hit by rejection so often.
Right? Yeah, yeah. Or you feel like, oh, I'm just getting away with this, but
Yeah.
if only they knew.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. But listen, I love all your stuff online. It's really, really good. I could see you doing, character and sketch stuff on TV. The right vehicle comes along. So
Yes, we'll wait for somebody will come across my YouTube someday.
oh, I highly recommend it to anybody. Yeah, it's really great stuff. So I presume you've been told, but on this Need to Know Comedy Show, I always ask everybody I talk to recommend someone else who perhaps most of us wouldn't know, but who you really like in the comedy scene. So
Yeah. So I was thinking about this. Basically, I ran my own, or did, back in the day, 5 months ago, my own comedy night, which was like, we used to film stuff and then do a live comedy night in a living room. And that was a great way to put on all of my favorite comedians. So I could just list everybody that's been on those. But they're like some of the most recent ones, like had Michael May, Patrick Healy, who was also on my little web series thing.
yeah, I've already had Patrick on. So
Yeah. My co-host Clare Parry, who does like physical comedy, so she's like a clown,
okay.
basically. And then Julia Masley was also on it, who does the same thing, clowning. I really like watching those kind of things because it's different to stand up. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, that's cool. I'll get in contact with those. Did you do any clowning as part of the course you did?
No, not really. I only ever really did that at school. But I actually, when you submitted to the comedy course in Southampton, you had to do like a self-tape type thing. So I did a clowning one-man version of Romeo and Juliet.
Wow.
And then that worked out. I don't know.
Yeah. Amazing. I did a 5-day clowning course a few years ago, and everybody cried during the course.
Oh, really?
Yes. Because, well, you went to at a certain point, you to come out with just a red nose on and not say anything, but make eye contact with each member of the class for a period of time as to when you felt that your conversation, just using eye contact, had finished. And sometimes eye contact just brings up stuff, and a lot of people would just start crying.
Wow. Yeah, it's weird, isn't it? Like I always see people doing, like, when you see on TV shows or films or something, people doing therapies and stuff like that. I always watch it and I'm like, that's just improv. They're just doing improv. Like, they're just doing what they bullied like nerdy drama kids about. And that's that's because people just want to have eye contact and like touch each other. And it just makes you
Yeah, that's true, actually. Yeah, that's the thing about improv. Yeah, it can either be a comedy form or it can be therapy. And you better kind of just do the therapy in your workshops.
yeah. Not so much publicly.
Yeah.
That's like what a lot of stand-up is as well, though. People kind of get up and then just like talk about their problems.
Yeah. And forget about the punchlines.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Sometimes. Yeah.
But yeah, it's close to the bone, all right. And listen, actually, did you win a competition in the Cherry Red Comedy?
Yeah, it was Cherry Comedy Club in Dublin. Yeah.
Wow. How did that come about?
This year, and then there was a pandemic, so.
Right. But like, did you come over to or did they have heats in the UK or?
So we had a heat in London, like the first heat, and the person who won that heat went straight to the finals, and then there were a couple others who went to Dublin for the semi-finals. So I won that heat, so then I went straight to the finals, and then I won that Cherry Comedy Breakout Act of the Year.
Cherry Comedy. Oh yeah, I said Cherry Red.
And then live comedy just completely collapsed. So
right.
Try not to take that too personally. I'm really sorry, everybody, but
yeah.
I enjoy live comedy.
No, that's really cool. Like, because I'm living just outside Dublin, so I was just amazed to see that.
Oh, really? They have a really good club there. It was really friendly. Like, the venue was amazing as well. It's at
Whelan's.
Yeah.
Was that your first time in Ireland?
Yeah, it was. It was a good experience.
That's a good experience.
Yeah.
Win a competition. But listen, it's been brilliant chatting to you, Eryn, and I will recommend to everyone your YouTube channel. I think your sketches are really amazing. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay.
Bye. Thanks.
Bye, Eryn. Nice talking to you. Bye.